and showing you a couple more of the architectural pieces we have and how the people fit in there, and they really bring the people alive. That was the whole concept of this. And when you have them in your homes, if you choose to have 2 or 3 of them as a representative sample of the Neapolitan dolls, you don't have to have a background setting, but you should put them in a little setting with maybe a basket, or they're talking to each other. Remember, the bodies are a wire armature with wrapping around them so they can be posed. And I think a lot of people have never realized this. They thought they were frozen in position. No, very gently, you can move the arms or move the legs, and you can pose them differently. But here's one of the, this is an original architectural piece right here. It has this wonderful side door, the arched windows. You almost expect to see a little head come peeking through that window. And we put people like going to the market, the woman with her basket of fruits, the man with his tray of breads, and then another man, I guess, with his beer stein that is bartering to buy any or all of those products. And he's a real handsome man. I do want to point him out to you because that was his bottle of stein. It's perfectly fine. This is not a cloth cap. It does have a red ribbon on it, but this is a sculpted cap. And he's just wonderful. Look at his nose. Look at his profile. Every little detail is perfect. You have the sideburns coming down, then you have the stubble of his beard around the side, enamel eyes, wonderful expression. I always looked, when I was cataloging them, I would always look to see, do they have little painted teeth? Because that was one more little detail that an artist had to do to make them very, very special. And indeed he does. And check out, his shoes are different too. Almost like a scuffy loafer. A lot of them wore clogs, a lot of them wore fancy boots, different variations. So kind of fun to, I would like to have done a complete 3 or 4 page spread in the catalog just on the shoes, but unfortunately I didn't. And this wonderful man with his basket of bread. Then down below them we have another one, and this is one of the original settings as well, and it's another one of the ruins. You can see where supposedly over hundreds and hundreds of years, over centuries, people are living in the ruins of the caves, and there's the beginning of a cave or else a fire hearth down below. There's steps going up, and then there's the archway in the back, and meanwhile trees have grown out of it, and there's a little animal, and there's a woman. This one is sold as one unit with the animals and with the woman in it, so it's very, very nice. Those are separate figures from the prop, but we have, I think, about 20 of these props in the auction, and really quite wonderful. As I said to you, this particular Dallas Theater Part 2 has characters from all of the different scenes that were typically found in any of the grand Neapolitan settings in the wealthy people's homes in the 17th century. They would have people from the tavern, from the marketplace, from the peasants from the field, as well as the aristocracy. So here's some of the wonderful pieces we found. First of all, a great fascination at the time with travelers from the East that were bringing with them exotic animals and sometimes offering them for sale or sometimes as performing animals in the street. This is a really rare and unusual, done as a vignette, presented on this original form, a wooden form, and we have 3 of the wonderful Asian travelers, each with just beautifully painted complexions, wonderful costumes, and they have their trained lion and trained lioness, I guess, on the platform with them, and they're just, it's a fabulous, fabulous piece. Many pieces from this line are included in the auction, including, in this example, the snake charmer. I've never seen another one like this. This is on a carved wooden base. A man with a flute. And he is staring so intently at that snake. I mean, that's how much the detail on this is. And then turn it around when I show you the snake, and you look at that. I mean, that snake is staring right back at him. He is entranced. So that's a really wonderful piece to have. In the scenes of Naples, the street scenes of Naples, you would have this kind of entertainment going on. Well, here's the marketplace, and look, the man is coming in. He has his donkey, he has his walking stick, and he's going to get supplies for his home. And then we have the women that are offering their fruits and their vegetables. We have another whole table of wonderful fruits and vegetables. These were all important parts of the scenes at the time. 4 women, 4 completely different hairstyles, 4 completely different facial expressions. Absolutely wonderful. And another one of the props that Hanna Butkus was able to assemble, a very, very wonderful piece. It's actually, it's one base. The fountain can be separated, but it can be taken off and be separated, but this part can. And this is done as a ruin with the bricks and the stonework, and just incredible. And then that wonderful old fountain in the back with the mythological face with the water coming out, faux water coming out of the fountain. A great, great piece. This is wonderful. Now, when we move over here, other things that we're going to see. Many of you love the pieces that were able to be attributed to a particular artist that we had in the first session, and we do have more of these in this session, and here's a group of 4 of them. Be able to look at them in the catalog. And again, what I caution you about, the pieces are never signed. The attributions are simply that. They are attributions. They're based on educated guesses. I think that would be a fair way to say it. Based on what other people, what other works have been done by those artists and signed, so you know the style of what they do, and based on found inventories and that type of thing. And you can begin to see certain facial expressions, style of painting, style of hair, and you do begin to see there's definitely a pattern. Well, here's a wonderful guy up here. He's the town butcher, and he's carrying a poor little bunny or something, I guess. And okay, I was just watching that Stanley Tucci series about eating in Italy, and he was talking about in the mountains above Naples, the rabbit, how they lived on rabbit because they didn't have access to seafood, and here's a little bunny. So perhaps he was the butcher or a restaurateur in the upper mountain areas around Naples at the time. We have a wonderful donkey, and among his saddlebag he's carrying, again, these are not idle. This was not idle work. This was fine artistry work. The actual cabbage that he is carrying in his shoulder bag. And next to him is a fruit vendor, a fruit and vegetable vendor, sculpted cap, please notice. Notice the enamel eyes deeply set into the face, darkened complexion. Notice that his hands are completely appropriate to the rest of him, and he's holding a really rare antique scale from which he's suspending a cabbage that he's about to weigh to sell to someone. Down below, we have the innkeeper. And here he has a towel that he carries over his arm. Might benefit from a little laundry if he was a little more hygienic, but he's not. And even notice, pay attention to his shoes, an entirely different kind of shoe here again as well. He has his jacket slung over his shoulder, and a fabulous, fabulous face. Once again, really deeply sculpted, a wonderful face. Next to him we have another partner, and he's a gentleman, and he's got his long smoking pipe. And I want to turn so you can see his face from different angles because I think he's incredible sculpting. He has the gray hair. He's bald on the top. He has the stubble on his chin. And sometimes the stubble is just a lightly painted tinting. And other times, in this case, it actually is a textured stubble, making him very, very special. Okay? He's very wonderful. And then in the back, we have not the 3 wise men, but we certainly do have the travelers from the East, and dressed in their very, very wealthy clothes. The gentleman on the right in the green, clearly the aristocracy of the 3, and the other 2 his traveling companions. Moving on to this side, we have another of the artist designed pieces of the water bearer. This is attributed to Polidoro. Fabulous face, beautiful sculpting. Look at the furrowed brows. Look at the incised wrinkles on the forehead, very expressive features. And again, not just tinted beard, but actual, not deeply sculpted either. You really have to look at it, but it's the stubble of the beard, and it's very, very beautifully textured. Wrinkles on the chin, beautifully done. In the back, we have a group of different men. I call this the men corner because I wanted to show you some of the the variations of men that were done. And this is one way in which the dolls differ quite a bit from later dolls that were made in France and Germany, because you don't find as many male dolls there as you do in the Neapolitan settings. And every single one of the ones I picked to show you here have a different hairstyle, a different facial expression, representing different ages, and that's very important. I like these two because they both seemingly have the same hairstyle, but not really. I mean, it's like this bald crown and back of head, and then the hair combed around the sides. Okay, now let's look at him first, the bigger guy. He has, I called him with the windblown hair, because that's what it looked like. It was all like the wind is behind him and brushing his head forward, both on the crown and on the sides of his hair. Just absolutely wonderful. And he kind of looks like, let me out of here, because that wind is really blowing. But he has a wonderful facial expression, wonderful nose. Look at the silhouette. Always on these, look at their profiles as well as their faces. Now his smaller friend theoretically has the same hairstyle, but not really, because look, he has hair all around the back of his head at his nape, which the other fellow did not. He was bald in the back. And he doesn't have the same windblown effect. And he is holding his carved Neapolitan owl, which is very rare, and with which he is getting some wisdom. A wonderful face on him. Again, I like to show you the small ones, because people tend not to realize that if they don't have much room to spare, they could have a choice little collection of small ones. I like this fellow because I thought his face was so earnest and so, well, he's so handsome, really. And look at the details of his beard. Black beard, for example, but coming down from a mustache, a lot of neatly trimmed, and yet, look on this side, you see? And he had, that cap is not a cloth cap, that is a sculpted cap. You can see the way it was made to fit over his head, and with his original costume, goes out in the field, he's got his sack, he goes marching up into the fields. Wonderful, very handsome gentleman. I love these two old men. They may rank as some of my favorites in the whole auction. Look, completely different, and yet obviously from the same school, probably from the same artist. They're kind of stylistically the same, but their expressions are totally, totally different. Their hair is different. One has a very smooth head. The other has very deeply comb-marked head. Their profiles are different. And they're a wonderful size. This fellow, he is so expressive. It's such a dramatic looking face. Deeply, deeply sculpted hair, very angular, almost heart-shaped face. He's clearly concerned about something. And he has the smooth back of head, which accommodated itself well to having a scarf like this that would be worn on it. And I know this fellow is Neapolitan, but you just kind of think he's up trekking in the Bavarian mountains. He really does. We did a profile of him in the catalog because I thought his profile was so strong, with a very pronounced nose, a very pronounced chin, and here he is. Tinted gray beard. Okay, the two fellows that compete for who is the most handsome in the catalog, and they are obviously both competing with each other, and they could be brothers, but I don't know. But look, different hairstyles, but stylistically the same. The way the hair is sculpted, not the style, but the sculpting of it. Very, very similar. Painting styles are similar. The way the eyes are set. Look at the pronounced nose on this fellow. So you decide who you think is the most handsome. He's the rapscallion and he's the serious one, I think. So there are many, oh, look at his boots. I just noticed, aren't these wonderful boots? See, that's what I mean. You keep looking at these, and the more you look at them, the more fascinating it becomes. And then one more thing just to show you here before we move on to our final aspect. I wanted to show you some of the animals. Oh my God, I love this. Look at that pig. He is so wonderful, that little piglet. Okay, and then here is a wonderful cow. Cow or bull? I don't know. Cow. I can see it's a cow. Okay, enamel eyes. Horns. All of the details are proper and appropriate. And dogs. I think there are about 10 or 15 dogs in this auction, and I love every one of them. This is carved wooden, little curled up tail. He's absolutely dandy. Little tongue sticking out. I think even if you didn't collect Neapolitan figures, you could buy these animals and have them displayed all by themselves, or even with your other German characters or French dolls. So I want to show you one other category of dolls now that we have.